What's up, everybody? Brandon Lilly here with the Be Legendary episode by Sornex. Sitting down with Jeff Sobol today, and he's at Kent State. He's a really interesting guy. He's a young coach, and the primary reason that I wanted to have him on, I've seen him at a few conferences. I've seen him, around other people, the way he fires people up, the way he fires himself up, and he's just going through a lot of stuff from an academics and player type in college, evolving to a coach. So I think if you're a young coach, if you're an old coach, this is a guy that you can learn a lot from because he's kind of been through it all. So without further ado, Jeff, thanks for being on the show, man.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I've been pretty excited about this for a couple of days. So
yeah. So to kind of elaborate on what I was talking about there, I listened to one of your other podcasts and learned your story a little bit more in depth, where you had actually been recruited to Illinois. You finished out your career at East Illinois, and we had actually talked a little bit earlier, trying to record this at a different time, and just discovering that the realities that you had as a player have made you a much better coach. I'd really like to focus in on that because I think there's a lot of young coaches that are out there that they don't know how to deal with today's youth. They don't understand the transfer rules or why kids are wanting to transfer when it seems like, years past that was kind of frowned upon. It's almost become the way of the world. But for a kid like yourself, let's just start there. Playing football, getting some attention, getting the letters. You also said that your dad was a coach, so he kind of helped you navigate those waters. But going from a Division I school down to an FCS school, what was that like for you as a player? And then on the flip side of that, as a coach, how has that helped you shine light on these kids who are struggling with maybe academics or being away from home? Yeah. I mean, I know that's a lot wrapped into one, but
I'll definitely start with, really growing up playing football and all that with my dad. And, it was always a huge deal to me. And he did prep me for that situation a lot better than like a parent that didn't, have that education and that background. Because my dad played college football. He kind of understood how things went. And he was teaching at a school too that was getting a lot of coaches coming through. So, he had some experience. He knew kind of what they were looking for and whatnot. But man, fast forward a little bit, once I got to Illinois, I was there for 2 years. I went through some adversity there when I got there. The coach that I got recruited by, the whole entire staff that I got recruited by, ended up getting fired after the first year. So
because he recruited you?
Because he. I'm there for a second. I was like, "Oh, damn, man!" So, yeah, exactly. Because he recruited a bunch of guys like me to a 1-11 team. So it was a pretty bad situation. But it was pretty nice to be able to go through that. And what ended up happening to me is I survived 1 year with the next coach, and then I bounced and I transferred and. Transferring nowadays, you kind of touched on it when you were talking about when you were going into this question is, it's kind of on negative light nowadays is because, the NCAA transfer portal gives an opportunity for these kids to make a huge decision without consulting anybody, and they can just be emotional and get on there and do it. And, there's some parts of that I don't agree with and things like that, but also transferring was the best thing that I've ever done.
For sure.
So, I mean, when I claim colleges, I claim Eastern Illinois. I don't claim I don't claim my time at Illinois, but that time at Illinois, that whole year, after I already made the decision that I was leaving, I went through spring ball, and then I went up and got my official release after spring ball. But I went through almost that whole entire season knowing what the inevitable, knowing what was coming, and and it's just that was really tough to handle. My academics slipped. I questioned my love for what I was doing. Like, man, do I really want to do this? But it meant way too much to me to stop, to quit.
Sure. That. So when you're in that situation, just to kind of give people that have never been there or don't understand, I've worked in the university setting a little bit, not to the length that you have, but I've definitely been around some kids, and you see these situations where a lot of times they don't fit, like you said, you have a coaching change and a kid who might have been a specific defensive type, a 3-4, 4-3 or whatever, and now they're switching over to something else. I mean, you can find yourself in those roles, but there's comfort zones, and there's also the expectation that the coach that recruited you would be there for years and years and years. What is it like as a player? And I know that I'm focusing a little bit more on you as a player right now than you probably expected, but I think it's important as a coach to understand their players as much as possible. And having a guy like yourself, we can cover both sides of that sword. Mm-hmm. So when you're in this mold, did you have any kind of feeling like, man, I'm letting the staff down, I'm letting the university down? Like, did you feel outside pressure, or were you just mind made up, put your head down, get through this season, and then make the change?
Man, I'll tell you the thing that was on my mind the most, and I think you can relate a little bit to this too. I thought about back home more than anything else because, it was a big deal for me to get a Big Ten scholarship from where I'm from a high school of 400 kids. Sure. It doesn't happen very often. And I'm like, man, what kind of example am I setting for anybody that thinks that they want to get out or do what I'm doing? Or everybody saw the work that I put in to get to this point. And I kind of felt like a quitter. You know what I mean? I sure. did. But at the same time, like I knew I wasn't done playing ball. I didn't feel like I was done. I mean, I was having those feelings and having those things like, man, this is tough. I don't know if I still love the game as much as I did, or as hungry as I was coming out of high school to get what I got. But I mean, I think I think that going through that though, and I'm glad you want to talk about it because I think it's important. I think going through that, I am able to relate to kids a little bit more and understand what they're going through when they feel like things aren't going their way, but also to let them know, give them some tough love too, and know that, hey, like push through this. It's going to be all right. Like we're not going anywhere. Like, we're here and we're going to support you. We're going to help you. Cause if somebody would have done that to me in one of those situations, it might've been completely different. So,
yeah. And I think too, a lot of times, not by any fault of their own, by negative intention, but a lot of times the coaching staff that you're involved with, like, and I know this from working on the inside, but I think there's a few listeners that probably don't. In the collegiate type setting, especially, the head coach is probably going to spend the least amount of time with the players. You guys in the weight room and the assistants on the football team, on the football staff, are actually the ones who spend a great deal of your time. And when you're talking about, getting 100 kids through that weight room day in and day out, or, throughout the course of a week, several hundred. What did you say you had 400 kids at one point?
No, in my high school I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So in my high school, like I had 4, but like, I mean, man, if you want to talk about, kids coming through the weight room, and just like at a university like this, I mean, we got teams pumping through our weight room constantly,
right.
And I don't know, if you were done with your point, but, I tell these parents on these recruiting visits, I'm like, hey, listen, okay, you obviously develop relationships with these coaches that are recruiting your son, and you come and you want to talk to the head coach and all that cool stuff. But, spend some time with the strength coach. I think it's important. Ask them tough questions. Ask them things that you're curious about, because they are the ones that are going to have the most direct influence on your son when he gets here. Sure. Because they're the first ones they see, and they're the ones that they spend the most time with throughout the year. So make sure it's somebody that you can look in the eye as a parent, and that they have your son's best interest at heart, and make sure you can look through the smoke and mirrors and you can kind of see, because, we all have that quality about us. We can all tell when somebody's just blowing smoke or somebody's really truly believes with what they're saying.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's really, really important, And man, I'm only 33, and I haven't figured all this out either, So there's a lot of things that I'm still learning and getting better at as a coach too. But I always lean on just being genuine, with my guys and all along,
Yeah, you kind of make my point. That's where I was going with it, is that, I think a lot of these parents, once the kids are out of the house, you know how you were at 18, 19, 20 years old. I know how I was at 18, 19, 20 years old. Every time my parents asked me how I was doing fine. No matter how bad it was, no matter how hard things were, I was always doing fine. But I think to the credit of the strength staff, you guys can actually be someone that picks a kid up when he's fallen, or you can be that kid or the coach that shines a light on a kid that maybe feels like he's not getting any love on the playing field, but the weight room can kind of become its own competitive beast of its own. And I think when I see kids really lose heart, it's when they lose connection in the weight room. When they're not coming in there firing and getting up and pushing hard, that's when I started addressing that there were probably problems bigger than just football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's one area, you know, the strength staff communicates with the assistants and the head coach on a regular basis. But these kids, you know, you put pads on them, you put a ball in their hand, they're going to be happy as can be. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But when they start missing meals, when they start showing up late to the gym and they're not giving the effort, that's when I've always tried to step in and be like, hey, what's really going on here? And then you can start having those discussions. Well, I don't feel like I fit in here. I don't know this. And really, some kids do need the direction and the help to say, maybe you're not made for this place. There's a place for you, but maybe it's not here. And then on the other side, maybe you can talk a kid into staying 2 more weeks and he gets over that hump, you know. Yeah. I think it's a really important job. And I think from your perspective, you have a really unique take on this because you've seen both sides. How many kids do you think really probably come into the college world without any idea of what they're actually walking into? Would you say it's probably close to 100%.
Yeah. I mean, unless they, you know, there are those rare occasion kids that, you know, just kind of get here and assimilate, just, you know, just almost act like they've been here for years and years and years already. You know, those are rare kids, but, you know, there's a lot of high school programs out there that do a really, really good job of preparing their kids. You know, do they prepare them 100% and get them completely ready? Hell no. Right. But is it a little bit better than some other places? Absolutely. I mean, from a training aspect, you know, from a training standpoint, you know, I would say mentally, none of them are really ready or really truly understand what it takes. But physically, you know, you do have some high school strength coaches out there that really do a good job setting a foundation and doing those things the right way. And then you have some kids that come in that look like they never touched a barbell before. And you're like, oh man, here we go. Like, hopefully 5 years from now, you know, I can take a video of you and actually look like a good coach. So
how much do you think the youth feeder programs have hindered college football? You know, like the AAUs and the Snoop football leagues and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
I don't know, man. I don't know if that's I think that the younger you start the younger you start kids out playing sports in general, I think that, you know, you're going to start messing with burnout. I mean, you're going to start messing with kids that just don't want to play anymore. And, you know, I think that, you know, I'm a young parent as well. And I think that, you know, at this point, you know, if my daughter wanted to play a sport, I'd be all about it, but I don't think I'm going to make her do it, you know, or say like, you know, you have to do something because I want that passion and, to be, you know, from coming from herself and not from, you know, feel like some outside pressure to do it. But, I think it probably, you know, I think it's probably about half and half. It probably establishes, you know, a love for the kid. You know, some of those kids that start that early are probably like, man, I love this. I'm never going to stop playing. You know, I'm never going to stop playing this. But then I think you also have the kids too that are kind of on the fringe whether or not they want to do it or not. And they're getting a lot of pressure from mom and dad and telling them to, you know, you got to keep going. And they're like, oh man. And then by the time they get to high school, they're like, I'm done with this stuff. You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, and I look at a couple of kids. I don't want to name any names, but I do want to talk about a couple of kids that I see. There's a couple in basketball and there's a couple in baseball and more in football, but their parents were either high level college athletes. I mean, we can talk about this one because LeVar Ball, like he's the worst example of what, you know, some of the parenting, the overbearing parenting can do. I mean, he's trying to muddy the waters with an NBA professional team. You know, it's crazy, but you get these parents that their kid doesn't necessarily show up or show out like they think they should. And then they transfer them from one team to the other. They're holding kids back. They're moving kids from school to school and all that kind of stuff. But some of these kids rise to a level of stardom at 13, 14 years old. I mean, one kid in particular I'm thinking about has almost 500,000 followers, you know, on Instagram. And it's like, yeah, he's probably set himself up for something awesome if it goes well. But at the flip side of that, there's so much pressure on these kids to perform at a high level and perform on such a bigger stage than, you know, my municipal park that we played at down here when I was a kid. How much do you think the game has changed because of the social media aspect, because of the parents' involvement, because of the endless ability to just transfer teams and move schools and all this kind of stuff? Has it opened it up too much?
I think the social media has just completely changed. We kind of touched on this before. Is like, I think it's completely changed the motivation, behind what the kids are doing.
Right.
I think that it kind of takes away from the love. I think sometimes it kind of takes away from the love of what they're doing, because they're so extrinsically motivated by their likes and their followers and things like that, instead of just being, just intrinsically motivated to be successful, instead of worrying about what it looks like, on social media, or like, man, I got to post this because I look cool doing this, be like, okay, well, but like, why don't you give a little bit better effort and do better at that? And don't worry about who's videotaping what you're doing, and I think that I think it's a huge thing. And I think it's a lot bigger deal than some people think, because I think, we're dealing with these kids now in this generation. And, we always, being the old heads, we always feel like that the generation underneath us are man, these kids don't know what the heck's going on, and they're so bad, and they don't know how to talk to people. And like, but the older people are saying the same thing about us too, but, back in the day too. And they probably had problems relating to us, and it's just always evolving and having to deal with it. But we find ways to reach these kids, because really, number one, it's our job. We have to, we need, if what we're doing is not working, okay, reevaluate it, throw your ego out the door and figure out what the heck's going to reach these kids, because, that's your job. And, especially in my room, man, like, we got to get those kids to do stuff they don't want to do sometimes. And like, if we're not setting that groundwork with them and really getting to know them, then it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do some of those things. But.
Well, I've heard you talk about culture. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about young kids, I have a young son, you have a young family. Mm-hmm. We're talking about kids that are, everything about their life tells them to be individualized, be an individual, stand out on your own, do this, live the life you want, live the dreams you want, on and on and on. So how do you face a team of individuals, let's say, when they come in the door and you're trying to create this culture? What's it like walking into your weight room when you have control? Because this is the first time you've been there 2 years now. This is the first time you have full control as a head. You've been an assistant. You've worked your way up.
Yeah. So being here, I've been ahead since I've been here, but yeah, working all the way up to Kent State, I've been an assistant my whole career. Yeah.
Sure. So you graduated from East Illinois. You worked at East Illinois, and then you went to Bowling Green, and then to Syracuse.
Yep.
And then to Kent State. So in your young years at 33, you're younger than I am. You've really accomplished a lot, but in dictating your own culture. Every coach that I see, you got the Scott Cochrans, the guys that are kind of in your face, delegating, do this, do that kind of thing. And then you have a guy like Corey Edmond at UK, who's very, very reserved, and very, like, I would just say extremely professional at every turn. And then when he's in the weight room, he tells everybody, I'm a dog. I get in here and I work with these guys and I push these guys. So it's kind of cool to see somebody who's at a 100 all the time, like Scott Cochran, and then a dude who just he cruises along at like a 10. And then when the time comes, he's wherever he needs to be. What's your weight room look like?
Okay. So to start answering that question, I think that I need to, talk about kind of my mentorship and how I got brought up, because I think that has a big, deal on why I am the way I am and how I do things. And, Sean Ettinger, the head strength coach for football at Syracuse, man, I was with him for 6 years, and I was his right hand man. So, he was the head guy, and he brought me everywhere he went. So I hooked up with him at Eastern Illinois. And then after that, we went to BG. He brought me to BG as his number 2 football guy, and I was with him for 2 years there. And then he brought me from BG to Syracuse as his number 2 football guy for 2 years. So I can't really say too much about it without, really how he set the groundwork and believed in me before I believed in myself, kind of type of mentor. I think all of us have those mentors in our life, especially in this career, that have kind of set the framework and showed you how to do things. Now, what's cool about when you're the boss, or like you're the head strength coach, I can do whatever the hell I want. Yeah.
Right.
But when you're going through that and you're structuring those things, you're always making mental notes about all right, how did Coach E handle this? Or, he's got this situation on his desk right now. How would I do it? Or, programming standpoint, what would I do different in this situation? Or this didn't work the way I thought it was going to work. What would I change? What would I do? And you're constantly making those mental notes and mental decisions, and thinking about those things. I think you should be as a young coach while you're learning underneath somebody. But making those choices. And then, so now, man, I mean, I tell my guys all the time. So first of all, I tell my guys that I love and respect them. And I think that that's a big deal because, I don't care where you've come from, what background you do. I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm going to treat you with respect first, and I'm going to earn your trust. I don't want any other trust that's not earned. I don't want you just to think that, I don't want you to come in there and just respect me or just trust me just because you think you have to. Like, I want to earn that shit because that means more to me. Mm-hmm. When I stand in front of those guys and I say, guys, I never lie to you. And I can look at them in the eyes and they know that I'm telling them the truth and I'm not just blowing smoke or just saying some shit, and I think when you start talking about creating culture, you have to make sure the people leading and establishing this culture are genuine people that actually care, and what they say, they actually mean what they say and do what they say they're going to do. I think that's pretty basic though, right?
Yeah,
that's pretty basic, but you have to be consistent with it all the time.
It's a two-way street though too, yeah. Right? They have accountabilities, rules.
Absolutely. We're going to hold them, we're going to establish our standard, what we want them to be, and then we're going to uphold that standard. And if anything drifts underneath that, then we're going to let them know, and we're going to tell them we're not happy with them. And I think that's, if I had to say anything, what my room is like, I hope my room is accountability. I'm going to hold you accountable, but I also expect you to come in when you walk through those doors, like, exactly what you're going to get every single day. Mm-hmm. I want to be a beacon of consistency, like, so that, if stuff's going haywire in your life and you're having a terrible day at school and, you're doing this, you're going through some adversity with your girlfriend or whatever, and you come in my door, I want you to know that you're going to get the exact same thing every single day mm-hmm. from me and my staff, and I think that that's extremely, extremely important, for credibility reasons, but also just for them to kind of know, like, that you got their back, and your job is created. My job is created for them.
Right.
If you look at it like that, it's for them. And I'm not going to let them slip at all or let them be average or let them slip into complacency. Like that's mostly what my job is. The X's and O's of the lifting and stuff. We can talk. I can talk about that all day, but this is the stuff that, create culture, creating cultures is what it's all about, especially coming into a place like Kent State that doesn't have a good history of, football. And we're just trying to change this whole thing around and flip it on its head. So.
What was that like for you? We touched on this briefly before, but, going from a Division I school where I think there's the type of mentality that's pervasive amongst society today that bigger always means better. Division mm-hmm. I, ACC, Big Ten, whatever the school might be, wherever you might be going, those Power 5 schools are the desire. But I look at a guy like Judd Logan. We spoke about him briefly too. He's made an unbelievable career at the University of Ashland. So coming from your background, I mean, you worked your way up kind of through the rings as most people do. Was there any kind of letdown when you came from Syracuse to Kent State because of the size of the schools? Or was this like, okay, I'm taking a step forward because I'm going from an assistant to head? And how hard was that decision for you to make, leaving a coach that was like that mentor that had really helped, solidify who you were as a coach?
Yeah, this is awesome because, I mean, this means a lot to me, because it was tough leaving Coach E. It was tough, but I was ready because he did such a good job with me. You know what I mean? And I hope he takes it. I hope then there's a sense of pride with him to know that, like to see, it probably was pretty tough for me to leave him too as well. It's like, he knows exactly what he's going to get from me for all those years. And it was tough leaving, but I was jacked, man. I was excited. I could not wait to get here because, So this is important too, to know the history of the head coach here and me. Like he's also 33 years old. I didn't know if you know that.
Yep.
He's the youngest coach in FBS football. He's 33 years old. He's a head football coach here. He was the offensive coordinator at Syracuse. And so him and I go all the way back to Eastern Illinois together because Coach Babers hired Coach Lewis, who was the head guy here, on his staff way back at Eastern Illinois. And man, we were boys. Like we're boys all the way through all the different moves, we have young families together. Like we're boys first, and now he's my boss. But like we had those conversations back in the day, like, hey man, like when I'm going to go he's talking to me like, hey, I want to be a head coach one day. And, like I would love for you to be my strength coach. And I'm like, coach, I'm down. Like,
right.
Absolutely. But it's really, really cool. And I hope some young coaches listen to this and understand this and how important it is to not chase paychecks. Because when you move when you start having families and you start getting some serious, skin in this game, and it's more about, you're not just moving yourself, you're moving your entire family and your entire life. Like you need to make sure that the person you're moving that for, that you trust them with your family.
Yeah.
You trust them, because these head coach, people listening might not understand either. These head coaches, I mean, if they go do something crazy and, do something distasteful or something and get fired from the university, their whole staff's getting canned. I'm getting fired.
Right.
It's not just, I could be the best strength coach in the country and my head coach does something crazy and gets, I get fired, but like it's extremely important. I think that, our relationship has to be good and it's really good. And I feel extremely confident that we're going to get this thing turned the right way. Cause I mean, we talk about these kids. They don't understand how much we talk about them and how much, like, what can we do better? How can we do this better? How can we do this better? Like, they don't quite understand how much we are invested in this and getting them, really where we want them to be, but they want to be there too. They want to be successful as well.
Absolutely.
But like we are hand in hand. We have to say the same thing. We say the same message. We have to be on the same page all the time because of what I touched on earlier, how much we're around these guys and how much influence we have on them. If we're not saying the same thing, or if we're kind of going in a couple different directions, then that's not good.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I want to backtrack just a second, talking about the moves and, kind of the rigors and the meat grinder that is the strength and conditioning world in collegiate sports. I know people personally who have, like you said, they've trusted people and on a promise, they've taken jobs, they've taken a pay cut to go to a better institution or a better perceived situation, only to find out, in 6 months or at the end of the season, they're not coming back. So they leave something that was, very good for perceived greatness, but really they end up laying on their back, just like not knowing what to do, like a turtle on their shell. They don't know what the hell to do now. So do you recommend that a young coach maybe, I don't want to say puts their life on hold, but to some degree, you don't involve people in what you're doing as you're evolving as a strength coach, because you might move. I know a guy named Mike. He's a good kid, great coach. I think he moved like 5 times in 4 years, and do you think it's much easier to just kind of tell yourself, okay, stay focused on the job, get to a place where you want to be, where you're excited to be there, where you see some longevity, and then start looking for those relationships, start building a family? Or is it something that it's never going to be stable?
I think that you just get, wherever you're at, wherever your feet are at, right then and there, coach like, and some advice that I got from Coach E back in the day is coach where you want to be. Like, if you're a GA, coach like an assistant. If you're an assistant, coach like a head guy. Like, coach to where you want to be. And I think that the other stuff will take care of itself, the bouncing around, the moving around, because you're going to go to where the next best job is for you and the next best opportunity is for you. And I think that focusing on doing the job the best you can is gonna let a lot of that stuff just kind of take care of itself. And I know that's kind of a broad answer, but I really think that it's all about the job that you do and the relationships that you build with the athletes and getting that experience on the floor and things like that. I think that, you're going to establish relationships. And, and one of the positive things about social media is, you get to see a lot now, and you get to see there's so much information out there, really the internet and all through social media and all that, man, there's so much information out there, and you can grow as much as you want to grow, and you can read as much as you want to read, and you can, and there's all these resources out there. But I mean, I just focusing on the next job while you're at a place, or it's just not a good thing. I think that you have to be present where you're at. And I know that's not quite what you meant, but
no, I think it's important. And as a young coach too, we've talked about, like, just embrace where you are, build yourself up to the best that you can, because you can't control tomorrow. You can't control what people think about you, but if you do the best you can, that's the only way to really ever excel in life is, to do those things and to make honest mistakes along the way and adjust and grow. What do you tell a kid that asks you, hey man, I want to get into the strength and conditioning world, I want to be ahead one day? Are we making a mistake by making too many smart kids? You know what I mean? Like there is so much information out there. There are so many certifications available. There are so many just really, really intelligent, book smart kind of sports science side of things versus a guy like, I always touted myself, and this is the opposite of the extreme. I was a guy that could lift a lot of weight. I was a guy that could look at people and break them down. I was a guy that could understand the reps and the sets to make you stronger, but I couldn't always put it to you in technical or scientific terms. And I think that there's a great divide between those two ends, and neither one of them is right at the end. Do you try to encourage people to get under the bar, to get in the weight room and coach and just coach and coach and coach and absorb the information as you go? Or do you think it's ideal to front load and get your master's degree and to get these certifications and then come walking in the door and be like, here I am? What's your preference?
Well, so I'm gonna go back to the badass Jim Wendler quote that I always think about too. Take your science and research and shit. And I got blood, sweat, and vomit in this. I got and that always spoke to me. But he's Jim Wendler. Like, I mean, he just his reading his stuff, like it's all black and white. Like it's this and it's that. It's this and it's that. But I mean, now, like from what we're supposed to do with these guys now and how much we're supposed to develop them with all the science and stuff out there, we have to be balanced. We have to be educated, first of all, because we all have the base certs, like, and everybody that applies for a freaking internship nowadays has one of the big certifications already. I mean, it's like you said, it's saturated with people that are just ready to go all the time. Now, I will say that I think that I would prefer somebody that's been seen a couple different ways, a couple different places, that have seen different ways to do things, that hasn't just been at one place their whole time. And like, cause we're all different. We all do this thing different. And I think it's good for them to be around different types of people and different types of coaches, so they can establish their own identity and what they think is what they value and what they think translates to the playing field and things like that. I think that's important to kind of establish their own identity. But I would prefer somebody with more floor experience and somebody that can teach and coach, because coaching is an art. I mean, they call us strength coaches for a reason. We're not trainers, we're not personal trainers. We're coaches because we have to figure out what's best for our kids and to make sure that we give them figure out a way to make sure that they get what they need, and communication is huge. Like, I'm standing in front of 60 guys this morning and I have to be able to talk to them and convince them that this is what's best for them for this next hour. This is what's best for you. And you need to go hard and it's time to go. And there's a lot to establish that. You have to, like, kind of going back to what I said earlier, being consistent and on all those things. it takes a lot. It's not just you're not just going to go in there one time and have one conversation with them and they're going to be like, all right, this guy's awesome. Like, I got it. It's going to take a while, cause they see through all the bullshit.
Yeah.
They know when you're legit and they know when you're faking. And that's kind of why it's important for me to kind of also walk the walk a little bit, and not just talk the talk, and make sure that, I'm staying, that I know exactly what it feels like for to be underneath the bar and to suffer and to push myself and to put myself in uncomfortable situations and test myself. And because that's important. It's important to just being a man. Like, every once in a while you gotta test yourself,
Absolutely.
You gotta get out of your comfort zone. And I'm comfortable in a rack. I'm comfortable squatting, but what I'm not comfortable with is going outside and running or doing some row workouts or something crazy that'll just smoke me. That's not my wheelhouse, but like I ask these kids to get out of their heads and to get out of their, and to push themselves. And if I'm not doing that, it's really hard for me to say that.
Well,
it's really hard.
Here's something I wanted to save this and talk to you about it because you posted the 3,000 yard sled push, right? But that was a team deal. Well, my little chappy ass, I get in there and I say I'm going to do it. And I say I'm going to do it when I get home. And of course, when I get home, life hits. But I knew I was going to ask you for the podcast, so I wanted to put it out there too in public, for everybody that hears this to know I'm going to do that this weekend. I'm actually, I've got a 1 mile trail and I'm actually just going to do 2 loops of it. Just pulling the sled. What weight did you pull for that?
So we didn't pull. So we pushed it.
Okay, you pushed it. That sucks.
So this goes.
That makes it even that much harder.
So this goes all the way back to Eastern Illinois. We started this tradition as a strength staff, and we did something. And so we alternate. We get on the field and we do 30 trips on the field, and we push it 5 yards a pop, and we just throw a plate on there and we just rotate for. It takes us 45 minutes, but it's constant work. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's one of those things that is just important to us, and then we do. But hey, man, that's you put it out there in public now, so you got to do it.
I'm going to. And what'd you say you put on there? Just one plate?
We just put a plate.
I don't want to say just one plate because at some point that one plate is the straw that breaks the camel's back. But
man, if we were low handling that thing too, we would. I mean, our legs would be like microwave hot dogs. I mean, it would be bad.
So, I haven't heard that one before, like microwave hot dogs. So how much of that stuff do you do? Like, because I get inside my own head a lot. Like I was doing a row here earlier. I do a buy-in and a buy-out in all my workouts. So the buy-in today was 1,000-meter row, sub 4 minutes. That's kind of my warm-up. My buy-out was a 130 or a sub 130 500. And every second that I go over, like if I go 132, I have to do 2 500s, and they have to be sub 2 minute. So I have buy-ins and buy-outs, and those are just strictly nut checks. Like, how much have you got? Are you able to do this? Can you get it done? And it's going to suck no matter what. So you just got to get through it. Do you do that to yourself, and do you do it to your players?
We have some office conversations, with me and my guys. But I really love the staff that we put together here. Wayne Tuxton goes all the way back to Syracuse with me. He came here when I first got this job, and then Ori Sawfeld, when a position opened up, out of here at the field house to fill that. And I had a previous relationship with him, and we got him out here too. And man, we pushed. It's cool because we kind of hold each other accountable, like we hold the players accountable. And we don't always get to train together because their schedules are crazy with the teams that they're training and things like that. But there's always office banter, man. And one day, there was these distance guys there. One of Coach Tuxton's track guys came in, and he was like, hey, we just just really casually said, we just ran so many miles at like a 7 or 8 minute pace. And I'm like, damn, I was like, you ran 10 miles at an 8 minute pace or a 7 minute pace? And he's like, yeah, that's just like a cool down for us. They're distance guys. I'm like, okay. I was like, and then this kind of got down a path of, we kind of started talking shit to each other, and we're like, and I said, and I made the statement, I said, I think I can will myself to run 1 mile under 8 minutes. I think that's what it was, or 7 minutes. I think it was 8 minutes. And I was like, I can will myself. And this is me completely untrained, dude. Like I haven't ran a mile in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think that my mind is tough enough where I can go out there and run a mile. So I went out next day, tied my shoes up, went out there with those guys watching, and I ran a 6:59. So I ran a 7 flat, something. But dude, I mean, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that.
Right.
And they were like, you know, they were pretty surprised that I did it in that time. But like, I had the confidence in my mind. I was like, man, I might not feel great afterwards or during it, but I'm going to run the damn mile underneath 8 minutes. Like I can do that,
right.
You know, and like, but that's, so to segue into the next question that you said about the players is, you know, we have a redshirt program and I call it the katana. And the katana is, you know, obviously, you know what a katana is, a samurai sword, the curved sword.
I was thinking of the sweet Suzuki motorcycles.
Yeah, well, those are sweet too, but those probably aren't made the same way that a sword is. But so like, I call it the katana because of the way these swords are made. They're bent, they're molded, they're bent, they're molded, they're bent, they're molded, they're bent until at the end, they're a shiny weapon, right? So all this raw steel that I get, you know, that's what my freshmen are, you know, all this raw stuff that needs a lot of work and not a lot of molding, a lot of bending, a lot of molding, a lot of bending. And my goal is to turn them into a shiny weapon by the end of this freshman program, this freshman year that they're redshirting. Their only job is to get better and to develop. They're not playing. You know, their only job is to go to school, get used to going to class, doing all those things. And then when it's katana, when it's time for them to lift, like they're training and they're gaining weight, they're gaining a pound a week. If I tell them to, like they're, you know, we're going hard, you know, and my Friday mornings, katana, you know, this is, I promise this, I'm connecting this.
Oh, okay.
My Friday morning katana workouts have nothing to do with exercise science. It has everything to do with testing them, because if I don't test them and I don't put them in those situations where they have to have a conversation with themselves in the, you know, upstairs, like, you know, can I do this or can I make it through this? Then I'm not preparing them the right way for the field, because they're going to have times in their career that they're going to be out there and they're going to be like, man, I'm either going to go hard here or I'm not, we're going to get beat, you know, or I'm going to go hard here and I'm not going to quite make this play, or they're going to hit that adversity, but they're going to have been there before, and they're going to know how they responded. And they're going to be like, man, I remember back in the day, I you know, Coach Sobol, you know, that thing he had us do that Friday morning, and I didn't think I could do it, and I did it. And that gives them confidence, man. That gives them confidence to know that they can master their minds. And I'm not looking for them to master their minds in 1 year,
right?
Or callous their minds in 1 year, but I need to constantly test these kids and make sure that they're getting put in those situations, because I don't feel like I'm doing my job as a coach if I don't.
Right. Well, do you follow any of the like, what is your data tracking for your players? Do you use like Omega Wave or any of that stuff?
I don't actually. And it's really just always been a resource thing for me. Like,
sure.
You know, like the GPS stuff is just, to be honest with you, it's really expensive. Is it going to give me awesome data and know how fast my guys are running and all that stuff? And yeah, there's probably a lot of really cool things that I could do with it. But, you know, at a place like this, you know, we're not going to drop all that, you know, probably not going to drop all that coin on that. We could probably find better things to do with that. But I don't necessarily have a technology thing that we're consistent with all the time.
Well, that's what I was asking about, because I think I've seen that, you know, when it's working well, like when it's implemented in a way that makes sense for the players and the staff as well, it can be a really powerful thing. But I can also see where stuff like that really can hinder the players and hinder the staff, because you get bogged down by what these readings are. And the one thing that I always went back to, there was a play, Florida and Bama, when Tim Tebow was down there, you know, and he's like beat to death, and they're in the fourth quarter, and everybody in the whole stadium thought this was going to be just like an option pass. Well, he goes straight up the gut, like, you know, and it's like his Omega readings or his GPS stuff, like it probably would have said he should be on the bench, you know. And in the game of football, as violent and as challenging as it is physically, mentally, you've got to be able to go, even when your body is screaming at you not to. And that's where I think, like, we've really done a good job of understanding the science of what high performance looks like. But I think when you have those tools at your hand, you can almost become trained in a different way to think differently about what you're doing. Whereas before, I grew up playing kind of the Bear Bryant system, which was like, just go until you absolutely can't and then go some more.
Waters for the week.
Yeah. I mean, I had a coach tell me one time, he said, when it starts to hurt, when you start getting better, and I think that my greatest gift has never been physical. My greatest gift has definitely been on the mental side, because I'm stupid, like I won't quit something. Even, I mean, you've seen my story after my fall, 17 surgeries and shit. Like, at some point, a sensible person would have probably said, this
lifting stuff's not for me, man.
Right. But here I am, and as I transitioned, I don't want to just be, I don't just want to be a guy that goes to the gym and, does kettlebells and rows to say that I got my time in. Like, I'm down there killing myself most days, trying to push that bar forward. So I think I've seen you lift. I talk about it a lot. The coaches that I see get after it at these conferences and things, I love lifting with everybody, but you're one of the guys that stands out. I could name a few that are always motivating to see, but I would say that sets a pretty hefty tone in your weight room, because you post your videos. Your players, I'm sure, see them. I'm sure they see you in the gym. How important it is to you to maintain that, and do you feel any sense of obligation to kind of be that light bearer for the kids? Like, I want to do it too.
I just want, I post that stuff, and I think that it's important for them to see me doing that stuff. And, and I'm not gonna say there's not good coaches out there that, don't lift weights. Just kind of like the same thing that we talked about earlier. There are some guys that have taken a different path or do a good job motivating their guys without that. But man, it's me though. And I can't get rid of it.
You think they work better in Olympic sports, don't they?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm not going to go down there.
I'm just giving you shit, man. Yeah, I'd say the same thing to an Olympic coach, but no.
Yeah. But like, you know what, man? Like I said, I want the, a show improve type mentality where it's like, hey, I'm going to be in your face, and I'm going to let I'm going to be yelling at you and telling you that you can do another rep. And I need you to know that I know what it feels like to be in that situation. And man, like I've loved it since high school. It got me everything that it got me everything that I was able to achieve as an athlete because I established that work ethic so early. So, I mean, man, I love the weight room, and I love my job, and it's not, and I hope the guys know that it's not for show. It's not, I'm not doing it. I don't lift weights just because I want them to see me lift weights. I lift weights because I love doing it, and it's a huge part of my life, and it's my stress reliever, man. It's my time where I get to just train and turn it off for a second. Was your dad instrumental in kind of getting you into the weight room, or was it?
Yeah, because he was your coach, right?
So no.
Okay, that's right. He coached at a different school.
He never coached me. Thank God. Yeah, thank God.
I remember you saying that after some of your games, it would just be like, "Here's where you messed up, and here's what you did wrong."
Yeah. And as a high school kid, sometimes you're like, "Man, we won though, Dad," and I thought I played good. And he's like, "No, man," and you're like, "You didn't play good. You almost got your brother killed." Because my brother, we got my senior year of high school. I was on the offensive line and defensive line. Small school, I had to play both ways. I was a defensive player in college, but my brother was the starting quarterback for us, and he was a little sophomore back there, and I'm protecting my little brother, so there's a little bit more incentive. But it was. He was huge. He was a huge part. He was a huge part of it. And I remember him setting up with some of his friends that were coaches that ran weight room time hours. And I would go in there sometimes as a young kid. And I don't remember exactly when I started, but I do vividly remember one time when I worked out, I lifted, and then I came home and I was like, and I didn't want to go the next day. Because I woke up and I was like crippled sore.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh man, I'm not doing this." And I don't know if I cried, man, but I might have been like, "Dad, no, man, like I'm not going." But I went, and he made me go, and I went again, and I went again, and I went again. And I just kind of, I think that he was a big part of that.
Is he still around?
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, he's still around. He's still kicking. He recently retired, so he's just driving my mom crazy. So.
Have you guys always had a real tight relationship, or as you've gotten older and had kids yourself and kind of gotten into life, has that dynamic changed?
Man, I'm so grateful for the family that I have. My mom and dad. I don't have some crazy adverse story about my childhood. My childhood was amazing. My parents gave me everything that I needed. Like we were never. Especially when it came to athletics or sports, they were always supportive. And if we wanted to do something, they would find a way. My dad was a high school football coach and teacher, and my mom was pretty much a high school secretary. I mean, so we're not rolling in a bunch of dough or anything, but I never felt like I was without anything. And I have an older sister and a younger brother. And my younger brother ended up getting a scholarship out of there too and played at Northern Illinois. Was a strong safety, and he's still a beast. I know you might have met him out at Jim Jones one time, but he was out there. He's a little jacked up stud, man. But we're a little different body types. I was a D lineman, he's a safety. So,
right.
But man, like all five of us though, I say five, like on my mom and dad and the two, and me and my older sister and my brother, man, we're still tight. We still talk as much as we can, and we all have our crazy lives, and they're all back in the St. Louis area where I'm from. So I'm the one that's, I'm the one that's all over the damn place every couple of years. So, but we do the best we can to communicate and talk as much as possible. And I talk to my brother almost every day. Just because we're pretty tight.
What's he do? Is he involved in strength and conditioning at all? Or
yeah. So he's back at home at a facility in St. Louis area. He kind of does the private sector. He kind of trains some athletes and then does a lot of personal training too. But that's his passion too.
Has that ever crossed your mind? Because I mean, I've seen both sides of it myself. I've worked in the collegiate structure. I've worked in the private sector and whatnot. There's definite benefits and drawbacks to each. Is that something that interests you at any point in time in the future?
Man, I think I'm not going to say no to anything down the road, but I mean, I love the college developmental aspect of what I do. I love watching kids come in and, changing their mentality and their physical, their mental and their physical, completely rebooting all that stuff. They walk in as a little bitty skinny kid and they leave as a, strong man. Right. I feel like, and I love that part of it. And not to say that I couldn't get that in the private sector. I mean, I probably could. And there's probably things that would be nice, setting your roots down somewhere and really establishing a home and know that you're going to be there longer than 2 years.
Yeah. Right.
Like that type of stuff is cool, but man, like I'm all in this, and I'm gonna go hard with this. And my wife's all in; she loves it. My daughter's in the weight room all the time. I got her in there all the time. Yep. She's picking up 10-pound dumbbells and stuff. And I mean, it's such a part of me. It's such a part of my family, and I couldn't. And at this point, I can't see myself doing anything else.
Well, that's awesome, man. We're coming up on an hour here, so I want to throw some quick fire questions at you. You can go as in depth as you want to, or you can just cut them short. What's your favorite lift to coach?
Favorite lift to coach, squat. Squat's my favorite lift.
Okay.
I love coaching it. I love the progression of coaching it. I don't put a bar on people's backs right away. I just go, teach them, they have to command their body weight first. Right. They have to be on the wall first, sit their weight back on their heels, gobble it, front squat. Yep. Then we throw a bar on their back. Like we don't, but I love watching people finally feel it and finally start, making those significant gains and being confident underneath the bar and doing things. That's one of those lifts that people can do things that they didn't think that they could ever do in their life.
Absolutely. It's awesome to coach the squat because I think, I gained a much deeper appreciation for it from a technical standpoint after my injury, but I think that a lot of people just fear the squat for a multitude of reasons. It sucks, like your legs. Yeah. Like nobody ever did a high rep set with like a moderate weight and was like, man, I want to do that every day for the rest of my life. There's probably some lunatic out there that does. And I enjoyed squats from that perspective too. But I think a lot of people just have a natural fear of it. Getting underweight like that and getting crushed is a terrifying thought.
Well, thanks to you, man. That 135 for 50 that you put in that first, I've done that multiple times, and that'll show you what you're made of, and that'll bring out if a certain part of somebody, if you know what I mean. Like if we had a kid, we had a guy, assistant coach that started when he first got there at Syracuse, like that. That was, sorry to him, that was one of his first days there, and we're like, all right, we're on this day, like, you're doing it, and he did it, and he got about 30 in. He's like, I can't do it. I'm like, the hell you can't, like, you're doing this, like, you go, it's 135, like, you can will yourself to do another rep. But,
well, you know what I've been doing now, just to kind of give you a little flavor to turn it up. Now, granted, my body weight has come down, so this is a much easier endeavor for me now than it would have been. But I'll take my body weight and I'll do 50 reps, but I'll do rest pauses. So it's like, go as long as I can. I can't rack before 25, no matter what. I have to hold it for the first 25. And then it's like, I just start chunking it up, but I try to do as few racks as I can. And what I do for every rack is a 2,000 on the rower. So if I get 2 racks, it's 2,000 sprint.
Yeah. So you got to give yourself a consequence.
Yeah. And they've got to be sub 830, like at the end of my leg workout, I just broke a 7-minute 2,000 meter again, 6:55. So an 8:30 isn't awful, but when you have to do it after a 50 rep with your body weight, it's pretty awful because you're already sucking and wheezing.
And
the rest time that I give myself is not gracious. It's 2 to 3 minutes after my squats usually. So I'm still sucking wind, like just feeling that like I'm going to puke. There's probably stars spinning around my head kind of thing. But yeah, dude, anything that I can do like that, 50 reps of anything, that's actually one of my coaching cues when I get a new lifter hands on and they tell me, well, I don't ever feel, I don't know how I should feel this lift. Man, I have them do 100 reps with on a deadlift. Let's do 95 pounds for 100 reps. Tell me where you hurt tomorrow. And that's what we'll start focusing on as your accessory stuff. You ever do any of that kind of crazy shit with your guys, or is it, or yourself?
Like that's those Friday morning katana things, man. We have these staple, I do like one of the staples that we always do. We have like a Tabata protocol kind of where I have them divide up into groups of 4 and we'll do rounds. So we'll do 30-second rounds of squats. So 135s on the bar, 135s on the bar for everybody. And the first guy will go and he'll do 30 seconds worth as fast as he can go, hitting depth. And, my guys are barking and making sure they're doing the reps right. They'll rack it up. Next guy goes, unrack, go. And we'll do rounds of that. We'll do 5, 6, 7 rounds of that. And then we'll go straight to another lift. We'll go to overhead press, which we'll throw a 25 on there and do the same thing, same protocol, same everything, as many reps as you can. Then we'll go straight into a bent row, same thing. And then we'll end it. We'll end it with the bench hop over. So we'll put the bench out and I have to jump back and forth. So that's the one with that, that's one of those days where we got the trash cans out. But again, it's not about messing them up. It's about testing them. It's about there's at some point in time doing that stuff. You're not going to think you can stand back up, or you're not going to think you can do another row, or you're not going to think you can jump over that bench. But I promise you can, because I've seen 6 other classes do the exact same thing, But yeah, I do that. I do that kind of stuff with my guys.
That's awesome, dude. All right. Next question. How important is family to you? And I don't just mean blood. I mean like your tribe. I guess that's a better word, because I'm big on that. You read Sebastian Younger's book, Tribe?
I haven't.
I got to get you a copy of that, man. It's one that changed the game for me in allowing me to look at how badly I was messing up my life, because I was trying to build a tribe of people that I didn't ever see. Like it was all through a screen, and that's cool. Yeah. But if you're not taking care of your tribe right around you, it's just a pointless endeavor. So for you, what is your tribe, and how important is that to you?
Man, my family is everything to me. And that's an easy thing to say for everybody. A lot of people will probably say the exact same thing. Oh, family is everything to me. But, we kind of touched on it a little bit. The person that I am today is from my parents giving me a great life and a great upbringing. I've had great siblings at the same time. That's my immediate family. But then the family that I'm starting on my own, with my wife, Kelsey, and my little girl, Sloan, my girls, because we're away. We're in Ohio. Everybody else is gone. It's just us. It's me and my girls. It's me, Kelsey, and Sloan, and they're everything, they're my motivation. Right. They're my motivation to be a great coach and not just a great coach, but if I'm doing my job as a coach, I'm providing a good life for them. And my wife doesn't rely on me because she's a stud and she goes out there and does, as many, she's on Rover, she walks dogs all the time. She teaches part-time at Kent. She's just a gangster and she'll find anything, she just doesn't want to sit at home. Like she's not that type of person. She never, but those, my girls at home are the ones that I think about all the time. About making sure that I'm doing things right here to support them, but also to be a good dad. I didn't know how to be a dad, it's figuring that out, on your own and making, you're always wondering if you're doing a good job or not. And, you start, but that's, that I love being a dad, I love being a good husband, working on that all the time. And, but also I want to extend it. I want to say, part of my tribe is also, is Coach Lewis here, cause he's given me an opportunity that I love and I want to make him proud as well. I want to make sure I give him a product that he's proud and hang his hat on as well. But then I would say my players too, man. I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for them. And I really do care about them and I care about them past here. I want, it's not just those tough workouts that I was talking about, yeah, that helps us now, but it also helps them down the road. The weight room's got so many correlations with the rest of your life. You're going to have to wake up early sometimes and go to a job that you might not like, but you're supporting your family and you have to get there. If you don't work, you lose your house. Okay. You have to get up. Obviously that's a lot more, serious than coming in and squatting, but man, it's the same thing. They have to get up and do something that they don't want to do. And they have to go to work and they have to keep putting one foot in front of the other sometimes and know how they're going to respond to some adversity. And I think that, man, I just want them to be the best humans that they possibly can be past here too. It's not just about ball, but it's weird how that happens though. If you really care about the kids and you are committed to making them good men, you're going to have success on the field,
I agree with that. And I think that, all the things that you touched on, family, loyalty, these kids, that's something that I credit Bert. And I talk to Bert about this all the time, probably to the point where he gets sick of it. But I was close with my dad in that I saw my dad put food on our table, put a roof over our heads. And as a kid, I kind of grew this resentment because he was always gone, but I didn't realize he was working. So I kind of strayed, I did all these things on my own. I made a million mistakes when I could have just asked for a little bit of help or a little bit of direction. Mm-hmm. And I think when I met guys like Bert Soren, people that really took me under their wing and were like, dude, I like you. I don't care what you lift. I don't even know what your numbers are. I like you for who you are. It started to kind of give me a juxtaposition of who I was and what really mattered. So I think recognizing that and putting that on your sleeve out there for the guys to see and witness and be a part of, you're doing them a bigger favor than you realize. Because I think so many young men grow up either not knowing their fathers or really in another dynamic being around their fathers and still not knowing them. So that's one thing, man, as a father of a young man, I see those walls being put up, and a lot of those walls are things that he put up because I was busy or because I was traveling or because I was putting powerlifting above everything else, thinking, oh, that's my kid. He'll be there. And now that I've circled back and I'm like, damn, time is gone. He's not going to be here forever. He's not going to be under this roof. And man, it's a heartbreaker in a lot of ways, but catching that and being able to change and in your shoes, to lead with that light, dude, I don't know what kind of impact that's going to have on my son. He may be a complete failure, but it feels a hell of a lot better than that distance, than having those walls there. So I credit you for that. Last question, man. Go ahead, go with that. And then I got one more question for you.
Yeah. real quick, like and I talked to our players about this too. And first of all, my tribe, I wouldn't be able to do anything without my staff too. And I forgot to say that when you were sitting there talking, I was thinking about my guys, and man, those guys ride hard with me, and they are literally, I'm thankful for them every single day. And they really help me do a great job, but on the second, the second note, if I, putting these kids in situations that they're gonna mess up, sometimes they're gonna mess up, or, I talked to these guys the other day about, cause we're coming off of a loss, and we didn't play the best. We didn't play the best we didn't play what we're capable of whatsoever. We just had a bad game, and we didn't play good. And I was like, man, guys, I wish that you guys could go through life and not have to go through the suffering, and not have to, suffer and lose and feel bad. But those are the best lessons. Yep. Like when you mess up, those are the best lessons. Or when you don't treat a girl right when you're in high school, and because you think you're too cool to be a good guy, and she dumps you, and you think that you're like, oh man, then you walk around like pouting and think you're heartbroken and stuff like that. But you learn a lesson from that. The next girl that I am able to date, I'm going to treat her the right way, and that's just an example that I use. But I mean, I don't want these kids to fail, but when they fail, they learn so much,
I get it, man. It's hard because I watch my son right now. I mean, he's at that age. He's in 7th grade. He's smitten with this girl, and it's like, I talk to him. I'm like, dude, I'm sure that you're excited, and I'm sure that this feels good, and the happiness level is off the charts, but you got to be ready. Like it might not be forever, and you kind of get this kind of like look.
It's like, no, man, Dad, I'm marrying her. Like, what are you talking
exactly.
Got a plastic ring.
Yeah, I think there's been one of those mood rings or some bullshit they sold at a book club or book fair. But the last question I want to ask you, man, first of all, I do want to reiterate, I got a lot of respect for you. I've kind of watched you from afar. We've interacted here and there and had some good discussion, and just, I'll never forget watching you at that conference, and just, you had a fire about you. And more so after that, I really started paying attention to what you do and how you approach life. Legendary is the term that we applied to this program, to this podcast. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a mantra that we have at Sornex is whatever you do, if it's turning a wrench, if it's cleaning a commode, if it's writing a letter or putting a full facility in at a university, be legendary about it. Do it in a way that there leaves no doubt that we did it absolutely the best we could. What is your definition of legendary, and what do you hope your legacy is?
Man, first word that comes to mind to me is unforgettable. Yep. I want to be somebody that, to my players, I answer that first, because that's who I think about the most. I want to be somebody that they don't just graduate and leave here and forget about. I want to teach them lessons. I want to help them. I want to, give them tools for this hard world, and for when life gets tough. I care about winning and losing. Obviously, I mean, I have to, but I truly do care about them, and I want them to be the best, and I love them. But, sometimes when you love somebody, you gotta tell them what they need to hear, and you're not just gonna coddle them. I think that goes hand in hand with me, but like, I want to be unforgettable. I want people to, I want my players to leave here and remember me and remember the things that I taught them. And really, God, man, that's a deep question, man. I would, it's a good question though, because it makes you think. But I mean, I want to leave a lasting impression on, and leave a legacy, and really, what that is. I hope it's positive, and I'm just going to continue to be the most genuine person and coach that I can be. And hopefully I have those positive memories and those positive things when people think about me when I'm gone. And hopefully that's all positive stuff.
Oh man, listen, dude, like I said, I respect you greatly. I've watched you for a while, and I hope that people start paying more attention to you after this podcast. I hope you meet some good people through this. But dude,
yeah, man.
I think that sometimes we don't shine enough light on people like yourself who are kind of in the fire right now. For young coaches, definitely give this guy a follow. For you older coaches who kind of been through the ringer, who might have lost that fire a little bit, come back around, check this guy out because he's doing some really cool stuff, and it's all done with passion. Jeff, it's been a real privilege talking to you. I mean, I appreciate you doing this twice now, just to get it right. But
Good,
I'm always rooting for you, man. I'm a big fan of yours, and I just support you in everything you do, and I can't wait to see you again, man.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate doing this. And, I didn't know if you wanted me to say this on air or not, but man, you were a huge influence on my young lifting life. And, I going through those early cube cycles and reading your books and stuff and shit. And like, I went to the Arnold one time right after you got hurt. And I was hanging out the cage for the very first time I saw the cage. And, and I saw you there kind of barely moving around, and it kind of was like, damn, man, like, but then I got a little face-to-face handshake with you, and you would never, you meet on those weekends, man, how many hands you shake and how many things people say to you on those Arnold weekends. But I got to shake your hand, and I was like, hey, man, like, I hope, get well soon. Like, I can't wait to see you back at it. And that was a long time ago, man. But I mean, you've been an influence on me as well. So when you asked me to do this, I've been super jacked. Asked my staff about it. I've been talking about it.
Well, that's awesome, man. So. And I was going to throw this at you too. Yeah. You're not too far from me. I mean, you're about 4.5, 5 hours from me. So, I'm going to get up there to you probably in the next couple of weeks. I've been spending more time at home, not necessarily doing the bigger trips as much. Just trying to get out to people like yourself. I got up there and hung out with Coach Logan, some of the guys at Bearded Butcher. I need to get you over there too. Those guys are amazing. But anyway, man, I look forward to seeing you up there and meeting your staff and checking you guys out. So we'll talk soon. All right.
Awesome, man.
All right, man. Good, man. Thanks so much. As always, guys, stay strong, love yourself, love somebody, and be legendary.